something happening here. What it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there, telling me I got to beware. I think it's time we stop, children. What's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. There's battle lines being drawn. Nobody's right if everybody's wrong. Young people speaking their minds are getting so much resistance from behind. Time we stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down.
Hello there, everyone, and welcome to... Shut up.
Sorry.
I'm doing the intro, man.
Oh, yeah. I thought you were talking to me.
Welcome to day release with me, Clive Davis, and you can talk
Me,
now.
Robin. Yeah.
Yeah.
Robin, yeah.
There we go. That's who it is.
Mm.
Put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Yeah. Tastes real sweet.
Shut up, Robin. I'm doing the intro.
Carry on.
So what we do here is we talk kind of recent films, right? So within the last 6 months to a year, something like that, we try and keep it contemporary.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it.
They'll know all this because they'll all have followed us by now.
I know.
They're big fans.
Yeah, our billions of viewers. Yeah.
So we're good at this week. We're doing Mad God by Phill Tippett and Red Ghost, which is a Russian film, and Lamb, which is we went down the Scandinavian route again, didn't we?
Yes.
And it's an Icelandic film. So, yeah. Okay. Do you want to explain what Mad God is about?
That'll be
left it to you. Generous of me.
You do the easy bits and I do the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
So, I suppose the best way to describe... So, Mad God is a film that has been like 30 years in the making, right? And Phill Tippett is a very well-known kind of VFX pioneer, right? And worked on all sorts of things over the years, including I think he's the guy who designed the Ed 209 and RoboCop, right? And he worked in Jurassic Park and Starship Troopers and endless credits. And he did, unfortunately, direct as well. The one feature he directed before this was the first sequel to Starship Troopers. I don't know if you ever saw.
Oh yeah, I saw it. He did the sequel to it, did he? Okay.
And it was. I mean, it's been a while, but it was pretty dreadful.
I haven't. I don't know when I saw that, but I can't remember it. And then there's a third one, isn't there?
The third one's pretty good.
Right.
But the second one, because the second one was very early on when they were trying to do kind of almost full green screen interacting with a digital backdrop stuff. And it's pretty... I mean, it just looks like people...
running away from a
firing at the backdrop, you know, and and so, you know, if even Phill Tippett couldn't get that right, then clearly it would, because he knows what he's doing, right?
Well, carry on with the plot anyway.
Anyway, so that was very good, but he's redeemed himself. I'll jump ahead, and I'll say I very much admired this film, but yeah, so 30 years in the making, kind of on weekends between his regular gigs and using armies of volunteers and stuff in his workshop, put together this feature-length, mostly stop motion animation with some live action mixed in.
Yep, a little bit of
including
puppetry
Alex
as well.
Cox.
Yeah, yep.
With long fingernails running around.
Yeah.
Not much in the way of dialogue. No dialogue really.
No. Is there any?
No.
I guess
I don't think so. No.
No.
And yeah, so creating this very this, I suppose I wrote down Jan Schwankmeyer, Terry Gilliam, Ray Harryhausen, steampunk, 2001 monolith in there. And the other thing it reminded me a little bit. The other thing it reminded me a little bit as well was the old animation Trapdoor.
Oh, really?
Something of a Trapdoor about him.
There was something very there was something like the Pooh Men.
Yeah, I was just thinking of all those things that used to come out from under the trapdoor.
They were felt, weren't they? They were felt men.
Plasticine, I think they were.
But they look but in Mad Dog.
Oh, in Mad God.
They were cut. I keep calling it Mad Dog, Mad God.
Yeah.
They were they not covered in felt? I can't remember what they were, but they looked very felty to me, and they were just getting.
I mean, I'm sure there's all sorts of. Anyway, that's the easy bit. Is in a way is kind of explaining.
Well, it has a plot. There's an assassin. It has a sort of plot. There's an assassin, and he's going to try to kill something. I can't quite remember what.
Well, you say assassin, but I'm guessing you got that because I
only got that from what he said.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I didn't get he was an assassin.
I thought he was.
The way I read what I got from the film was so it starts with a quote from Book of Leviticus, right? First of all, and then once that's gone, there's like a diving bell descends into this world, and there's like some kind of anti-aircraft artillery shoots at it and tries to, and then this figure lands in this very ruthless looking world. He seems to be more of a treasure hunter or something more than an assassin was what I got from it. Not that I'm going to argue with Phill Tippett.
Or an explorer, like a
And then he finds all of these. There's kind of a almost like a no man's land war zone with all these creatures like predatory creatures feeding on other creatures and stuff. And then it's been a little while since I watched it now.
Yeah.
He
goes down and down and down until...
Yeah, and he goes even like underwater and then out the other side onto dry land again, doesn't he?
Yeah. And then is that when he gets to the point? Oh, I think we're going to mangle the explanation.
I don't think it really matters
because
I think you have to experience But he gets captured at some point and operated on, and then something's taken from inside him, and then that ends up being put in another diving bell. So it's kind of like a world within a world.
Yeah.
And then it goes down into another layer again, where it's suddenly much brighter, it looks more fertile. But then there's the destruction of that world, it seems. But then there's the birth of, it seems to be the Big Bang, right? And it's a birth of our world then, and you see the 2001 monolith flying. So it's on this big canvas. It's kind of a creation story, I guess.
Exactly. With kind of I mean, should we just bypass the plot aspect and just go for?
I think that's as good as we're going to get.
Yeah,
right? And,
because to me it was what I initially thought watching it was. It seemed to me like is without the only thing I knew about it before was something I'd watched maybe a year and a half or 2 years ago watching him creating it and thinking, oh, I can't wait for that, and then
Right.
and then forgetting about it completely.
Yeah,
And
yeah. I think that's happened to lots of people.
yeah, and then it's
Because
come
it
out,
was
and it hasn't really had a huge amount of
no,
publicity
it's a
because
shame,
it's
isn't it?
extremely uncommercial.
Yeah, yeah.
You
That's
couldn't
what
get
I like.
a less commercial sort of thing, I think, in a way.
Because I think he's released, as from what I understand as well. I haven't seen these iterations of it, but he has released bits of it in chunks before, right? Like there was a Mad God Volume 1, 2, and 3 shorts, and then I don't think they all add up to this. I think this is a lot more than what came out in those short films.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, now we finally have it, and it's quite, did you like it?
I liked it. Yeah, I mean, I kind of wanted to watch it again because it, as with most stop motion or an animation in general, you can't. It's almost impossible. Even though he did it, a lot of it in a kind of improvisational way, you can't accidentally. You can't have like, unless you do it deliberately, you can't have continuity errors or an extra walk on and
Right.
go and then walk off or whatever. Everything in there, all that detail is, in some way deliberate or placed in there.
Yes.
So it's and it's kind of there's parts where it's not that huge amount. It's also one of those things where he's got so much incredible skill model making and making movement, and then he'll do this fucking incredible model, and then he'll fall short on and so it's blurred and not easy to see.
Right.
He doesn't encapsulate all the detail a lot of the time. He's just kind of like, probably because he's so used to those models and stuff. He's not like my work. He kind of he uses it for whatever.
I appreciate that. Because like you said, sometimes people can get really pressured, and you just have endless like shots of look at the detail and you'd forget
I'd
to get on
definitely
with
do
the
that
story.
if I did.
And the thing is as well, it's quite brief. It's like 80 minutes or something, and that's another thing I appreciate, because I think if you were 30 years in the making and you did all this, it would be so tempting to make it like a 5-hour epic or something, right? So,
did you watch that? Did you watch that film with? I didn't watch it, but the one where they shot them the two characters from the age of 12 up to, well, that was a few years ago. I've forgotten the name of it.
Boyhood, not
Is
Boyhood.
It that? Yeah.
Was it Boyhood, the Richard Linklater film?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Is it?
Yeah, I did see it.
He shot that. Was that like 5 hours long? Or
it was quite long. Yeah.
I think I didn't watch it because it was massively long. But anyway, yeah. But what I thought it was about before looking up afterwards was, I thought it was sort of, partly about kind of like human beings' destructive nature and birth and regenesis, to the obvious sort of films, and then to me it's sort of like the death of stop motion and death of or like it's sort of like almost like a sad lament of like the dying death of process in a way, like, because he's so steeped in that tradition, and it just those are things, and those certain just things like having these these feltish looking, what they were called, the shit men or whatever, walking about. I didn't think they were shit men, but and just being squished, everything being squished and splattered and so, and it was like thinking about the journey that stop motion has been through, and that physical effects and stuff. That's what struck, came out of me, was this sort of like and this sort of destruction of that whole process, and it being broken down by these digital processes and this newer way of doing things, and how it was like each of the kind of parts, like like you said you had the kind of what's it, the clangers, or was it the clangers, or yeah, some of it was sort of animated in a way that was like clangersy, like kind of
After I mentioned, but yeah, clangers as well. Clangers were felt,
yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Whereas like where it looked kind of felty um uh and yeah,
That's a reference very few people
yeah,
will
well,
get.
probably, but like or Button Moon, um,
Yeah. Oh,
yeah, it's
I
like
don't think it ever descends to Button Moon
it
levels.
might maybe not, but it's kind of like cute. It has aspects of cuteness, stop motion
Yeah,
cuteness that
yeah.
gets squished or destroyed or whatever.
Well, that brings me to what I was going to say as well. What I really appreciated about it was quite how ruthless it was, because on the one hand, when you're making this kind of love letter, this ode to this kind of art form, or basically kind of hard working partisanship in not partisanship, what's the word I'm looking for? Artisanship in general, and it does have all these nods to all these other things, and Carl Zeman as well as another person I was thinking of. When you're doing all that, it's very easy to get swept up in a certain kind of nostalgia or to take the edges off, I think. But this is pretty fucking ruthless, right? Like, it's really depressing pretty much all the way through. And I really appreciated that he didn't take the edges off. Like, Phill Tippett does seem like, in interviews and stuff I've seen when I was there, he does seem like a man who's like, I quite appreciate his kind of, like, he's not going to get swayed by sentimentality. Like, so that's what I liked about this. It was fairly uncompromising.
Yeah.
Didn't you think it was like, it was, it wasn't like...
It was quite... I don't know whether I would...
Even though it was cute, it wasn't like, it was a pretty, horrible world he introduces us to, right?
Yeah, no, I agree with that aspect. Whether he gets sentimental or not, I don't know. He's a kind of a bit of a mystery. He definitely, in several videos I watched, he was talking about, kind of lovingly about taking acid on the Empire Strikes Back. You didn't mention Star Wars. I don't know whether I was deliberate or not. But he,
What? I've never heard of that.
No, it's this film. I won't bother. It's rubbish. But the and he had a mental breakdown, didn't he, on Jurassic Park? Did you see that?
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, there's a lot. I mean, if Phill Tippett ever writes his autobiography, I'm sure it would be a fascinating.
Yeah.
Read. But then again, just looping back to the sentimentality thing as well, though. Even when he does talk about when he started making Mad God on film rather than on digital, you'd expect him, because he's ended up going back to these techniques. You'd think you would be like, oh, and he'd be talking about, the days of film. But no, he's quite like, no, film's fucking horrible and difficult, and digital's much easier. So I appreciated that as well. He didn't have this rose-tinted view of the past. Right?
But I mean, obviously, animation. I try. I'm kind of, that's my thing in a way. And I always think to myself, like, animators are, some of the most tightly wound people you could ever meet, because the process is so intricate and annoying, and you're always looking for ways to, and I admired that in the way that you're always looking for ways to shorten it, or to so you get these lofty ideas, and then it becomes purgatory, and you look for as many ways to cut it down as possible. So in one way, but he felt like his life was over, didn't he? When Industrial Light and Magic said, "Hey, we got this new thing called a digital fucking T-Rex," but just quickly, like because I always thought, aren't the Velociraptors in Jurassic Park, aren't they stop motion, or I think they
I think
added a
there's
bit.
somewhere in between, right?
Yeah, there's somewhere in between, but they look way more stop motion than the T-Rex, and they're much creepier as a result.
Yeah.
You know,
And
like
they're
the way
much.
they
And it's
move and
interesting
stuff.
as time has passed, because I think I remember when Jurassic Park first came out. I think I remember thinking, you know, like I really don't like this shiny new CGI stuff, as you know, compared to all stuff. But then compared to what's come along in the meantime, you know, they look pretty cool now. They look slightly more old-fashioned, and they certainly have more weight than a lot of CGI stuff has nowadays.
Yeah. They definitely, because they were so nervous that they put so much physical effects into it at the same time, and now they don't. They think they can get away with it. It doesn't really. Yeah, the weight is always missing on CGI.
Absolutely.
Always.
Even the best stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's
yeah. They just all they do is they try to make them land like that.
Yes, and they make everything around it,
it.
the dust disappear, but it still doesn't look like.
Yeah. So anyway, so that in a way it's like him kind of reveling in partly the death of that process, and partly the all the kind of pain and and frustration and annoyance that he probably had, I guess, being an animator.
And that's great. I mean, I'm glad that he put that into this kind of thing, which, like you said, is a bit of a shame. It doesn't seem to have got that much notice, right? You know, there's a few, you know, people in the know and stuff, and I think it might have won at some like really small festivals, some awards here and there, but this seems like something that will probably become a bit of a cult favorite in years to come, I think.
Yeah, it's funny that it's also, in a way, I mean, it's been released at the tail end of the pandemic. It's very pandemic-y. In a way, it's sort of like you know, and also probably the pandemic helped complete it, you know.
Could be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, it's got the kind of, in a way, it's too miserable for this particular period where everybody wants to be coming out of their homes and looking up and going, you know, being positive and whatnot. But it actually, as a kind of not that I don't think that, you know, what's happened is really part of that film because of the long process, but it kind of, the enshittening of everything is definitely within that film, and good for reflecting on, because obviously the pandemic is a culmination in a way of the enshittening of everything, of you know, bad policy, bad fucking everything, and it's almost
certainly where you are, it seems to be the case, right? Like it's really exposed all the cracks and all the stuff.
And in America, and you know, in many places in the world, you know, where it exposed. Yeah, I mean, we the like sort of the bankers have just had massive bonuses. Just these, there's been a whole windfall bonuses thing, and it's just fucking, you know, it in a way, like, you know, that's all kind of in there, and it was in there from the start anyway. But I think it maybe because some of the more modern parts of that film are really industrial splatting of, and just, and I wonder whether that is like, this, you know, where it produce a kind of momentum, and I think it's an excellent encapsulation of the
well, I was going to say, it's great, even though we struggled at the beginning to mention what the plot was. It's not to say it doesn't have a plot or a narrative. It certainly does have a narrative, which is easy enough to follow if you're paying attention, and you should pay attention, I think. But it's great. It's really kind of like at the very beginning, like when the diving bell is like endlessly descending, I wasn't quite sure. Oh, but that's the necessary adjustment period, I think, isn't it? Is when you slow down to the pace of the film. Not slow down exactly, but you get the pace. That whole diving bell sequence gets you in the mood.
Yeah.
And then you're in the zone and you kind of go with it, right?
And in a way, like, you know, this is not to detract from it, but it is reminiscent of student films in a way. Like, you get a lot of student animations or student films where it's sort of like, you know, where it's you know, no dialogue. It's one character in a post-apocalyptic world. There was a famous film, student film called Nine, which then got made into a Hollywood film. It was sort of and you often get this sort of Nazi type kind of motifs, but what he does is turn it into something that is it's something he makes that really brilliant sort of by being incredibly well crafted, and also by having you know, loads of other elements and stuff all thrown in there, all part of it, you know, incorporate into it, so that it you know, if it was a student film, it would be about this sort of the you know, the main assassin character who looked kind of like he was dressed in sort of Nazi-ish, you know, costume, wasn't he, in a way, and the gas mask and stuff. It would be about some sort of, which I like those kind of student films anyway, but he adds loads more anyway into it. That's all I'm saying.
And yeah, no, it's not a like naive film. It's
a culmination of a lot of experience. Yeah, that's what I kind of.
Which it would. I mean, I guess if you're making something for 30 years, and to your point as well, that even though you were saying animators can be kind of very tightly wound and stuff, on the other hand, they must be very philosophical and able to look at the big picture, right? Because even the smallest thing is going to take for fucking ever.
You've got to have incredible patience, haven't you?
Yeah.
What was it? Did you have a favourite
sketch? Remember that Fast Joe sketch when it's like visit to like an Aardman style studio, right? And Charlie Higgs and you just move this just a tiny amount, and then click, and then just a tiny amount. And Paul White is just like, his face just drops as he's watching. It's a nice little sketch.
Yeah. No, I've never seen that one. But yeah, did you have a favourite character? Because I had a favourite character in Mad God, which mine was the kind of lumpy faced guy who kept. I really liked the way it'd been animated to look through that kind of viewer, that what it was, sort of Victorian looking memorabilia or something. I can't quite remember, like a Victorian cinematoscope or something. Sort of thing.
Right.
That would do this sort of face, you know, that lumpy guy, and he would do this face where he went to the thing, and then went. Like it was kind of, you know, and again, like with you can't do anything undeliberately, so it was like it was emotion that was sort of like looking through it and then going oh, and then kind of contemplating what it had just seen. Oh.
Yeah, he does manage to give everything personality as well, doesn't he? That's the thing, which is quite.
There was a lot of comedy, comedic kind of elements like that, where it was sort of just through the movement and through the kind of sound and the gestures, it was hugely funny, I thought. Or just
really good sound design as well, actually, and soundtrack by Dan Wool as well, who is a long-time collaborator with Alex Cox as well, who we mentioned is in it. I think he's the only. Well, no, there's another couple of characters, like live action characters, but they don't. they're not on screen for. I think Alex Cox has the most screen time of any of the human of the live action character, running around with his fingernails and.
So did you have a favorite character or bit?
No, I didn't really think of it in that way. It seemed all such of a piece of a whole, right? I mean, I just got quite swept up in it. Like I said, I got quite absorbed, and because again, with this kind of thing, sometimes, to your point, because there's so much effort into making it, and it's so tempting to not kill your darlings, right? So this kind of thing can sometimes fall into that category of, no, it's a really great achievement. It's really amazing, but also, is this gonna finish? Kind of thing. You know, it's a shame because these things are, but sometimes they forget to make it, kind of to work as a narrative or watchable. So that's the other thing I appreciated about this was it's good, it's entertaining, it's not just an objective. Oh yes, there's 30 years in the making, and you can tell, and it's actually fun to watch as well.
Well, exactly, yeah. I mean, sort of the first, I don't know, like you were saying, as you descending down, you're thinking, is this gonna? Is this it?
Which way it's gonna go?
Is this gonna go on like this?
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's 80 minutes long, right? Okay, so because I really want to watch this and don't want to miss anything, and he's descending down and down, and then but as the layers sort of are building up and and things are changing, it starts to have a movement to it that you can kind of recognize. And I get it. We're not just like gonna go. We're not going nowhere. Yeah, it was good.
It's a bit like the difference between so. Are you familiar with the K? Is it K Brothers? Is it pronounced K Brothers? QUAY. They did like Street of Crocodiles and stuff like that. Anyway, they work in a similar kind of medium to. And I've always thought the difference between them and Jan Schwankmeyer, for example, is Jan Schwankmeyer stuff is always entertaining.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas the K Brothers stuff is, the artistry is there, but sometimes their stuff can be really pretentious and not that much fun to watch. Not all their stuff, but some of their stuff can be a little bit thematically too much, kind of up its own ass. And so I think this comes down more on the other side. This comes down on the entertaining Schwankmeyer side of things, right?
Yeah. There's I mean, every character is imbued with a life, that makes it entertaining. There's so much thought, and it kind of I think I will watch it again. I was going to watch it again before we did this, but
I think it's a film I'm going to come back to and watch every few years or whatever, and share with other people. I feel as if, feel free if you've got anything extra to add, but I feel it's almost as if we could go round and round and round and round, try and get to the essence of it for hours, but it's better just go and watch it, right? I think
in a few years' time as well, it'll because of the release date being around sort of, the endemic or whatever you want to call it, the tail end of the pandemic is quite significant, and we'll have some resonance to it some years down the line in a way, but I don't know, maybe not. Anyways,
but regardless, it's
really good on its own. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So, the Red Ghost.
Oh, the Red Ghost. Okay, Red Ghost. Shall I try this one?
Yeah, this is a 2020. So but it didn't come out until
it came out 2021. Yeah.
So it counts. It's a Russian movie.
Although I haven't seen it anywhere. I couldn't see it at the cinema or anything. I wanted to see, but it's a Russian World War II film regarding a mysterious character called the Red Ghost, who's Also an assassin, but he's an assassin of Nazis. He's a Nazi hunter. And he goes around terrifying the German war machine by. So it's based. Can you explain that? It's based in on a part of the German invasion where the Soviet forces were pushed way back. I can't remember the intro to it.
So I think it's 1941, and they say it's in an area called Viama or something like that. I think it's called. Yeah, but it's basically at that point of the war where the Nazis on the Eastern Front are making some gains.
They were killing loads and loads of Soviet soldiers everywhere, and Stalin was tactically not really ready for the German invasion, so they were being pushed back and everywhere, and this kind of figure of the Red Ghost is this sort of this mysterious figure who just pops out of nowhere and mows down a bunch of Nazis. It's brilliant.
Kind of semi-supernatural, isn't he? I suppose.
Yeah. And
there's like an opening scene where there's like, which I thought was kind of quite funny. There's a couple of actors, or an actor and his wife, and they go around the country doing impressions of Hitler and Eva Braun. I guess that's their shtick, right? Yeah. And they're about to be killed by these Nazis who are not amused by their routine. And then just at the last minute, he's a sniper, isn't he? Kind of takes out these Nazis, and so he's kind of like this semi-supernatural figure that people talk about in whispers, like a bit of the Red Ghost. And the Nazis are very keen, obviously, to catch him because he's a bit of a thorn in their side, and and it eventually becomes a very long, extended, like a siege scene, right, in this kind of little encampment, little village.
Because there's a group of former Red soldiers, Red Army soldiers, I guess. Well, most of them, they are former Red Army soldiers who we follow as part of the main narrative.
There's like a pregnant woman, directed by Andrei Bogatrev, who I looked up on IMDb, and the only thing that jumped out at me, I didn't know this existed, was he directed one episode of a series called Central Russia's Vampires. And I looked it up, and I don't know, I haven't seen it, but it looks to me as if it looks like a Russian version of What We Do in the Shadows.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm kind of interested to see
that turn to it.
It looked comedic from the poster they have on the IMDb.
Okay. It was before or after What We Do in the Shadows, then?
After I think.
Okay. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to veer off into territory, but didn't vampires originate in Russia?
You mean the legend of the vampire?
Yeah, with the staking of the corpses.
I think slightly further west. My notion of it is.
I thought there was some sort of plague or something, and they had anyway. Forget it.
Okay.
Like some sort of plague or mold thing that happened to the corpses, which they freaked them out, and then they had to put a stake. They decided to put a stake through them because they were coming back alive. I thought that was where vampires came from. Was this sort of, but I've completely forgotten. But it made them look like they had come back alive, and so they had to stake them down.
Right. Yes. No. I kind of know what you're talking about, but I'm thinking again, it's slightly more like little to the west, right? Is where that's kind of. But I'm sure there's a Russian version of it as well, right?
All right. Anyway, moving on.
We know what we're talking about.
This is what this should be called.
We know what we're talking about. That's not bad, actually.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I mean, for me, this was like, I mean, I'm always interested to see, like, because I'm assuming. So there's a thing at the beginning of the film. It says 75 years since the end of the war, right? 45 to 2020. It's like a anniversary picture or whatever.
Right, okay, yeah.
And clearly it's you know it's dealing in this kind of it's the kind of the Russian version of the our kind of Churchillian stiff upper lip stories of how we persevered and the Russian spirit and all that. And I have I'm always fascinated to see that stuff from other parts of the world. It's no different from American stuff. I have no problem with kind of slightly propagandistic stuff from other parts of the world. So I'm always fascinated to see.
Triumphalist, it would be more than propaganda because
I don't think there's anything unless there was something I'm missing.
All of it
I don't think there's anything problematic here, right?
It wasn't like
I mean, you could argue, you could go into the whole stuff about how certain parts of the great what would become the Soviet Union were hoping the Nazis would come back once the Red Army actually came in and liberated because they were so horrible and all that. But the thing is, you could take almost any story in history and say, well, why didn't you tell this part of the story? Or that's not the story they're telling.
It's a triumphalist. It's more like John Wick meets sort of I can't think of a relevant kind of war-based film, but I haven't watched a war-based film in ages. I was a bit because you mentioned not a war-based film, but I really enjoyed it actually because it had a it's not based on a story or anything. I couldn't find any.
No, I don't think so.
Any reference?
It's a little bit like Inglourious Bastards as well. There's a little bit of that.
Yeah, I haven't seen that because
Oh, okay. But what I was going to say was, so I'm always fascinated to see like the other countries' versions of Hollywood blockbuster or whatever. And this certainly does have good production values and all that, and the acting's fine and quite well done action set pieces and all that. But ultimately, I'm a bit boring. I didn't really get much out of it. You seem to have enjoyed it more than I did.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed. It was John Wick-esque, If anything, it didn't involve enough of the Red Ghost. I sort of liked the exploration of the Russian sense of humor in it because after sort of like thinking about it, I like the way they view themselves, and again, especially because at the moment there's so much anti-Russian propaganda, that is sort of dehumanizing Russians in our media in Britain anyway. It's sort of relentless. I can't turn on the radio without hearing that sneering voice about so it's good to, because obviously there's also the Olympics, and so it's just relentless sneering voices about Russians. So it's nice to see a film where it's kind of where people are celebrating their culture, because they're celebrating the Russian sense of humor and the kind of Russian sensibility in the time of of what would have been a horrendous kind of period for the people, because it was all just the plebiscite, or whatever you want to call it, the poorest who were sent to the who were dealing with that shit. The way that the sort of Soviet Union was set up, you wouldn't have got anyone but the poor, coping with those horrible conditions, and also the Germans didn't want to fight in the Soviet Union either, because it was fucking really hard going, wasn't it? I mean, it was freezing cold, and they talked about like the three climates. One was horribly hot, and they didn't talk about that in the film, but horribly hot and like kind of scratchy, and you got loads of mites. Raining constantly, so that with this is me looking up today, so that because I don't know enough about that history either. So there's a word for it. It's called the road disappeared or something. That is the word. That's the rainy season, because the road fucking disappeared because everything was mud. And then the other one is obviously what this film is set in, the absolutely bloody freezing cold period, where there's and there were parts where it was so well shot and filmed. I just really enjoy watching well filmed work from
and
countries.
like you said, even though it's not a particularly great film, I would rather, if I'm going to watch this kind of disposable mainstream entertainment, I kind of rather watch it from another part in the world, because I'm going to learn something more than I'm going to learn from an American.
It challenges your perspective. Regardless of whether it's not deep, it's not like it hasn't got anything. You don't come away. It's not particularly thought provoking, but it does challenge your perspective. Or the perspective that you're kind of force fed all the time. It's nice to just it's refreshing to, because it's very hard to humanize Russians at the moment, from a British perspective, at least.
No, it's a good point. Even though I didn't enjoy the film myself, I think it's worth pointing out that, because I tend to watch around quite a lot. I try to watch things from all over, so I sometimes forget that isn't necessarily the case for a lot of people, and so yes, I think you're right. If you have more of a steady diet of Hollywood stuff, and you don't want anything necessarily, you're not looking for an art house film or something challenging or difficult. If you just want a kind of an entertainment, then you could do much worse than watch this instead of like you said, John Wick.
If people liked John Wick, exactly, they would like that. And I quite enjoyed John Wick.
I saw only the first one. I didn't hate it. I wasn't mad keen on it.
No, it was just I quite like Keanu Reeves. So he's terrible at fighting, isn't he? Keanu Reeves. He's really wooden at fighting. In a way that's what I get from watching something like John Wick or The Matrix, would be watching someone who's really bad go ooh like that, and then someone fly off their fist.
The worst example
like I would be.
The worst example of that I've seen recently, I didn't see the whole film, but that movie, Gunpowder Milkshake, I think it was a Netflix film with basically starring Karen Gillan. Right? It tries to make Karen Gillan, Karen Gillan, right? From she was Amy Pond on Doctor Who, and she's in the Jumanji films.
Okay.
The redhead Scottish girl.
Okay, I got a vague picture in my head.
Anyway, nothing against Karen Gillan, but they try to make her into an action, and it's exactly like you said. It's someone very slow. I think Keanu Reeves is better than her, but someone kind of very slow moving, just kind of barely, just being able to have, and then suddenly the opponent goes, you're like,
because
really?
They're all trained stunt people around them who are incredibly lithe and quick. That's what I really enjoy about it.
It's amazing. It's something that Hollywood rarely has. When we were talking Donnie Yen and Hong Kong and stuff like that, is how they've always managed to just make really brilliant kind of kinetic kind of action, make look realistic and painful. And Hollywood, with all their money, they seem to have forgotten how to do that. Right?
It's like they can't see it. They see it and they think, yeah, that maybe they're too in it or something. They're looking at
I
it
don't know.
frame by frame and going, yeah. I mean, this film had some good action bits in that way.
Yeah, no, a well choreographed shootout.
Yeah.
Like the other thing as well, I always appreciate, and this is easy to overlook when it's done well, is you know, the choreography or the geography of a shootout is very easy to lose track of. Like if you don't know what you're doing in the editing, you just have people going bam bam and then bam bam, and you're like, where are they in relation to each other? Or you know, but this was very well laid out. Like you always knew where everything was, right?
Yeah, that's a good observation. If it was done by McG or whatever.
Yeah, it'd be like, what the fuck's going on? Yeah,
it had all the explosions and all the kind of, it had all the tension in a shootout. It reminded me of Young Guns a little bit when I watched that as a kid. So
because I haven't seen it in
a long time. But that's what it reminded me of. I think it was my favourite film a very, very, very long time ago when I was young. Anyway,
Young Guns 2, how was that
in comparison? I don't remember.
Yeah, so yeah, nothing fantastic. You said you enjoyed it a bit more than me, but yes, I think if you want a kind of slightly brainless actioner, give something from Russia a shot.
Well, I think also it does, like you said, you don't always have to go and see an art, you know, or an art house film from, you know, as a foreign film. It's kind of a frustration, isn't it?
That's the thing, is that I think some people, that's the other thing, even when people do watch films internationally, it's kind of this weirdly unbalanced thing where they'll watch popcorn films in their own language, but then when they watch something in another language, it has to be something deep and profound, and you're thinking, you forget, no, they also make these kind of movies in other countries too, and sometimes they can be not so much in this, but they can be a bit more of a window. You're going to learn more about learn more about India, for example, from a big Bollywood musical for the masses than you will an art house film, right?
Yeah, you might learn because an art house film might be tackling a particular subject in a particularly idiosyncratic way, or in a very in-depth way or something. Whereas this is sort of so much surface stuff and designed for entertainment that other stuff comes out of it, you know, like
It's interesting. My own personal experience, just to give an example of that. So, having lived here in Japan for a while now, what's kind of interesting to me is Japanese films that eventually end up playing outside of Japan. It's either like on the more artier, serious side of the spectrum. That stuff, you know, gets shown in film festivals around the world and people see that. Or it's the really, really, really ultra trashy, like big tits Yakuza zombie films. Or they got like a following in like Germany or
sorry, what's the name of that again?
They get like a following abroad, and people in Japan have never heard of them. But the films that are really big hits here, often, no one's ever heard of them outside of Japan, but they're the most popular films here. But they fall in this kind of middle kind of section, and no one's interested in them anywhere else. That's always kind of quite interested me.
I'll go for the quick tangent then. What the Sri Lankan guys, Tamil guys from the local, not the back where I used to live, local mini market. They were always watching films, Bollywood films. When they were, I really liked it because there's just one person in the shop, and a lot of the local sort of people would be like, "Ah, you're fucking supposed to do customer service, you piece of shit." But I really liked the fact that he you'd go up to the counter and be like, "Yeah, well," and this kind of laptop would be blaring away.
Right.
And like make you wait until that just this one scene, and then anyway, and I started talking to him about the films he watched, and lent me a, a Bollywood film called Madrasa Patinam, which had some English characters in it, and it was like it was sort of the time of the Raj. It was kind of a big hit in Bollywood hit, which was like, you know, sweeping, epic. Some of the acting was, you know, British acting was there. That's always interesting when you get like a British actor who's completely unknown, but they've got this weighty part in a Bollywood film, which is supposed to be, you know. So all those sort of cultural ways of looking at themselves and looking at the kind of, you know, looking at the colonial history and stuff were in that film in a way. But it was a real popcorn kind of, so I can't think, it was like maybe like a version of the Titanic, you know. It wasn't like the Titanic, but it was like that, sort of like a romance, you know, epic sort of thing. And that was kind of interesting in that way because of it being being so sort of superficial, but at the same time so many elements of like that stuff was in it without even being intentional.
You can learn a lot from other places popular. I mean, going back a few episodes, for example, we saw firsthand how, you know, you can make a ghost movie in China as long as you have some bollocks at the end of it.
Yeah,
you can. That kind of thing is quite interesting to see. Anyway, that's me on the Red Ghost. How about you?
Yeah, same. Yeah,
right.
I enjoyed it more than you, but yeah, I still go for it. Yeah. All right, Lamb. So, do you want to do Lamb? Lamb was
Lamb. This was interesting. So this was
it's very easy to explain.
It's an Icelandic film, but apparently Icelandic, Polish, Swedish co-production.
Right.
Directed and co-written by Valdimar Johansson and co-written by someone called Sion, who I think is a long-time collaborator with Bjork, I think.
Oh, right.
Wrote another film I haven't seen, but I'm quite keen to see, called The Reykjavik Whale Watching Massacre. And he's also co-written the upcoming Robert Eggers film, The Northman, which kind of looks kind of interesting. Robert Eggers, who made The Witch and
I see. Yeah, I've seen that.
The Lighthouse. Yeah, it's his new film.
I haven't seen Lighthouse, but yeah.
So this is set on a farm in rural Iceland, and I get it's Christmas as well, isn't it? Or it begins at Christmas Eve, I think.
We could do. I don't. It's not really that important, is it?
It doesn't really matter, I don't think, unless you're going to go for the whole potential biblical kind of element of the. But anyway, we'll get to that because I think this is a film that I enjoyed this film. I have to admit, I really enjoyed this film, but I don't think that doesn't mean I think it has great depth to it, which, you know, you have to search for. I think it's wafer thin. I don't think it's like a really profound film, but I enjoyed it anyway. Just
you're not going to say. Are you? I'm wondering if you're refraining from saying what the film is about, or not, because it's only one thing.
Plus, we should also we should say the spoilers here.
There's only one spoiler.
Well, I think this film is probably best going in not knowing anything about it, I think, right? Which is more or less how I did. I don't know about you. Did you know much about this?
Yeah, I didn't know anything about it.
I think it kind of works better like that. Right?
Does it? Yeah, probably. So should we just not say what the film's about?
Well, no, I think we will. But if you haven't seen this film yet, watch it first and then come back and watch us. Yeah, because we're great. Well, let's put it this way then. There's a good chance we will spoil it. We'll try not to.
Well, how about this? We'll say what it's about.
Yeah.
Everyone can turn the sound down if they don't want to spoil it. And then we'll carry on. And then you won't know what we're talking about, but we'll be referring to the thing we just said. You ready?
Right. Okay. Well, when we get to a spoilery bit, I'll wave my hands, and then when I've finished, I'll give the thumbs up. How about that?
Well, let's give away the spoiler now, and then.
So, well, no, hang on. Let me do the setup.
Oh, okay. You're doing that. Okay, fine.
I'll do it again. So there's this farm, and there's a couple. No, don't confuse them. It's not. Anyway, right. When I do that, sound down. When I do that.
Sorry.
Listen. Yeah, right. Numera Pass, and here we go. Here's a pronunciation. Hilmir Sniair Guvanson, maybe.
Yeah. Oh, that's what I meant to look up before we went on air. Was Zero Ghost.
No, there was just a weird sound. Actually, I'm going to have to investigate. There was a weird sound in the other room.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Is this part of it? Yeah, so it's about the
It was a sheep. No, I don't know what that. No, I thought I might have accidentally turned the device "Who shall not be named" on.
Oh, okay. Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Oh.
Did I scare you, sir?
Yeah, I did. I hate the idea of that.
So there's a sheep. No, there's a couple, and it's lambing time, and the sheep give birth to lambs because that's what happens.
Yeah, and pull them out and all that.
Then one lamb comes out, and we don't quite see it, but the couple are kind of looking at each other like, "What's that?
Yeah,
what's that now?" And they decide to take the lamb into the house with them, and no. So then they seem to kind of raise this lamb as their own child, like a human child. And
you can tell though, can't you? I mean, you can tell from the beginning. It's not like they don't show it, but you know that it's
until later on. So later on, you actually do get to see very good visual effects. Actually, there is a child walking around with a lamb's head on.
Yes.
Right.
Thank you for saying that.
Yes. And then his brother Bjorn Linur Haraldsson.
Yeah, another classic Scandinavian bad boy. It's fucking smoking in the house.
Yes. And they welcome him in, and then in that very Scandinavian way, there's like when it's first revealed that they have a child with a lamb's head, he's just like, it's like there's no big, what the hell is that? Or there's no like histrionics or anything.
Hang on.
But he just slowly kind of mentions.
He does go.
Or,
he says, "What the fuck is this?"
Yeah.
And the dad
but only
goes,
after a while, and very quietly, right?
Hey, come here a minute. Come here a second now.
He's from. Where's he from now? From Armandford, is he?
Yeah. What the fuck?
His brother from Armandford comes to visit. And so they raise this lamb as their own. It's like a half human, half lamb thing. And there we go.
Are we done?
I think that's. Well, I think so because there is.
We wouldn't give away the second plot.
We don't want to give away the second surprise ending because that. Even though the rest of it was fairly easy to guess, I didn't guess that. That was quite a surprise.
Well, I knew it was coming, but the way it transpired was pretty awesome. I like that. That was good.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, so we won't give away that.
No.
But I mean, there's lots of folk tales, aren't there, about pig children, lamb children, that sort of thing, or half animal. So I presumed it was like an Icelandic folk tale
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because there's a very pointed bit of dialogue, though, when they're watching something on television. And they didn't hear what someone says. And he said, what did he say? Oh, something about folk tales, I think. Like they...
Oh, yeah. And the guy on the television, right? Just so you know, because you...
Ingvar Sigurdsson.
Yeah, the guy on the television. He is in Katla, the thing I was telling you about when we did the last one, but after the recording. So because this was really like Katla, and I watched this with my partner, and we were both convinced that it was the same people. And then he appeared on the telly, and I thought, oh, definitely, because it's really the same atmosphere.
Okay.
And sort of this sort of miserablest kind of folktale thing where they, well, I call it like you don't like it, fuck off type stuff, where it sort of ends. Although the ending with this was sort of more concrete, but it still did have some aspects of you don't like it, fuck off. Like, yeah, that.
Yeah, it's not going to explain itself to you, is it? It's like...
No, yeah, exactly. The Monty Python sketch with Eric Idle, where he's the Frenchman and he goes, "Come this way, I want to tell you."
Oh,
something.
yeah. In the Meaning of Life. Right?
Yeah, and he goes all the way, and then he goes,
"You don't like it? Fuck off! What the fuck do I care?"
It's got that, and Katla as well, which is on, it was on Netflix. I mean, completely uncommercial, really, and it's got that aspect to it where it's like you watch it and it's so miserable. You think there's going to be a payoff, and the payoff is, go fuck yourself if you don't like it.
Well, you say uncommercial, but apparently this was the most successful Icelandic film ever made, which is hilarious to me. I love that. I love the fact that this is what comes from a blockbuster, like something this. You can imagine some old geezer like, so many explosions and it's so much noise. This film, like you can imagine someone demanding something not this exciting, like just a sheep just walking about for 2 hours or something.
I think they probably showed it to a focus group and they're like, it's a little bit happy.
It's very unrealistic Hollywood ending.
Yeah, it's very... I don't see why it should end in this way.
I'm a little bit German now.
Because I felt a little bit too up.
Or was that the Indian guy in the focus group?
It wasn't. Your turn then.
No.
Yeah.
I'm fine. So I really enjoyed this film. Did you?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was good. It was I don't know. I think people should go and see it and enjoy it for themselves. It was good. It was good and had that kind of like, don't do that aspect, which Katla had in spades as well. You're like, why?
Squirm inducing, right? But in a very quiet way.
Oh, come on now.
Yeah.
Why? It's really mean. But in that, and the other thing it had, which the other Scandinavian film, which I've already forgotten the name of because I'm that. Yeah. Anyway, we watched last time. We did last time on the day release.
We did
not the Dispossessed. No.
The Innocents.
The Innocents. That's the one.
Yeah.
It had ladles and ladles of gorgeous Scandinavian subtext, which was almost too much, really. It was, so like from the very beginning of this film, it was like, you could tell that their baby had died. But they don't say anything. It's just
right.
The way they go.
Yeah, from the bit. Yeah, I don't know if that counts as subtext, but yeah, I know. Like from the very beginning, it's like it's it's a cinematic shorthand, right? Like, I know what you mean. In a way, you almost wish if they hadn't bothered with that bit. Like, if they told the story exactly the same, but just not had
they didn't need
the dead child in the background.
But what I mean is though that the difference between and like I say, Cutler was similar, right? The difference between that and Hollywood is, in Hollywood they would sort of half mention it and then go, but in this they do half mention it, but it's just that they did so much. They do the bit, so that they so well that you can read all this sort of like, you could really like, wasn't it like pass me the apricot and then.
Right, I know what you mean. Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Oh, I could instantly tell from the way he passed that apricot,
right. Like
that his child died.
The discussion they have about the time machine, right?
That's it.
Time travel is possible in North Wales. And then she says, "Of course, you could always go back in time."
Yeah.
And husband looks. But no, I know what you mean.
Yeah. You can instantly tell. Whereas in Hollywood, it would be like, I haven't felt this way since
Tammy died. Yeah.
No, Tammy, but they don't say died. Tammy.
No.
That's subtlety.
Yeah, the person would go
Tammy.
Yeah.
Damn it! Yeah.
Right.
In this, it's more. I like it. I enjoy that because it's sort of like there's I don't say there's Schadenfreude in it, but there's always an enjoyment.
Oh, that would be very cruel. I'm glad your son is dead.
Yeah, I'm not glad, but it's like because it's because of the way they're doing it. It's like the fact that you can read exactly what it is in such a stupidly insignificant thing. Time travel is real. Oh, is it? I wish it was. You can tell. Exactly. I could tell
that is making a strange noise.
I could tell.
Almost everything. You have to wonder, like, what it's like to live like this. Like, can we have a conversation one time that doesn't have subtext?
This cup is rather cracked.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I know what you mean.
Anyway, it's good. It's enjoyable because
So, quite by chance, this is not. There's no direct connection in it, but quite by chance, I happened to watch another older film recently called Succubus, a Swiss or German film made in
Succubus.
Succubus, with 2 Ks rather than 2 Cs, from 1989. And again, it's a very simple story told in the wilderness, and about these 3 men who are cut off, and they make this kind of makeshift sex doll out of old, bits of wood and sacks and stuff, and it ends up when one of them fucks it and I suppose gives it the seed, it actually comes to life. It turns into this hot naked woman who runs around the Alps like seducing them and killing them. And I quite enjoyed that film, but the reason I bring it up is because it had just coincidentally I'd watched these films within the same week.
Oh, didn't you do a podcast on that one?
No, I haven't discussed it. I just watched it the other day.
I don't know why I
watched it, and they both had what they both had in common was they had this quite interesting, on the one hand, very serious tone and very well made, and the production values and everything are quite good. But the fantasy element, this naked chick running around, and the child with the lamb's head, something that is kind of fundamentally quite silly, like just silly and ridiculous, and this weird in between silly and really poor-faced.
Yeah,
I quite like that zone. Like
Yeah.
And both these films had it in common, and it makes both of them quite. And like I said, I don't think Lamb is like it's not the film that you need to watch with a beret on and your cappuccino and like discuss all the, what it's really about or anything like that. I think that's probably bollocks. I think you can just take it on a surface level and enjoy it for what it is. But it's just that kind of weird gap between something quite sinister but also kind of silly opens up this interesting space.
Yeah, it does.
Which I quite like.
Yeah, and I wonder if that's something within the definitely kind of naturalist, miserabilist fantasy seems to be a thing within the Icelandic and possibly sort of general Scandinavian mindset.
I'm going to have to take this phone call.
Oh, yeah. Well, wait, should we stop there? No. Oh,
hello?
Is it Ed?
I'm okay. How's it going, Eddie? Yes, I'm gonna post it this afternoon. Between 2 and 3, because I have to go to a little bit far away post office. You have to go Madaguchi. Most post office Madaguchi closed on Saturday, so. Yeah, but no problem. But yeah, afternoon, not this morning. That's okay. Thanks, Eddie. Bye. There we go.
These little Ed interludes coming into all of your productions are top notch.
To be honest, I plan in advance. I ask you to call me
at this time.
Yeah. So I had one question about this. I will show you if you knew what this was. There's a strange bit where they're all watching television, and then do they pop on an old VHS or something, and you don't see it at first, and it's like some singing going on, and they're like, what is this? I remember this. It's some kind of nostalgia thing. And you wonder, are they watching an old wedding reception video or something like that, right? It's the bit, and the mother's dancing with the little sheephead boy, and they're getting drunk, and they're clearly watching some old thing from their past.
No, they're watching.
And then they show the scenes from what they're watching. And it seems to be like a music video, right? It's a music video.
Yeah.
But they're in it.
Well, no,
it's the same actors. It's Númi Rapace, and it's Björn Hervelts and Hilmar Snær and all those household names that trip off the tongue. Yeah. They're in it, right? So are they supposed to have been like before?
Are they all in it? I thought it was just the brother. Because it was a music video. The point was
in the background there's a chick who looks like it could be Númi Rapace.
I could have been, but
I was wondering, are the characters supposed to have, before they started raising sheep? Did they used to be in a band or something?
No, he used to be. I thought it was just him. He used to be the cool.
No, I'm pretty sure she's musician. In there as well.
Oh well, I didn't notice that, but
and that also led me to think. So
are we?
Were they all in a band? Like, is that something they?
I don't think the younger the other brother was in it, but then I'd have to go back and watch it.
But those two were. So I was wondering, did they actually used to have been in a band? Maybe because even though she's Swedish, she lived in Iceland.
You know what? Actually, they probably like had a cup of tea and a subtext look at each other that explain that.
I was just curious if it was because the other thing
they'd obviously had an affair before.
Yes, yeah. But because you mentioned as well that Ingvar Sigurdsson turns up on the television, and again, this could be, IMDb isn't necessarily reliable, but usually if you go to the IMDb and you go to the connections page, if that was a clip from another film or TV series, they would say,
"Oh, okay." Yeah.
And then he's listed in the actual credits as man on TV, right?
Yeah.
So at first I figured, it was just something they showed a clip from on television, but they don't list it like that. So I'm wondering, did they specifically film that bit for this?
Yeah. Because
But it seems like a strange thing to do, because it's not as if the thing they're watching on TV directly pertains to the rest of the film. They could have just shown a clip of Ingvar Sigurdsson in something else.
What I thought that was about was just again about because when you see that clip, it hasn't been revealed that the child is a lamb child, as in, has it? Yeah, it's only been revealed that you only see the head of the lamb, I think, by that, and I think it was like a sort of fairly weak precursor, and also just harking to the fact that Iceland is full of and Scandinavia in general, full of folk tales, and in its sort of, I don't know, kind of.
We know what we're talking about.
Yeah, we don't know.
But
I thought it was just harking back to the tradition of folk tales, showing that this film is part of it. So.
Yeah, well, I'm wondering if it might have been the opposite as well, because there's again, I don't know, you're wondering how this stuff ends up, but the trivia page on the IMDb, which is always full of nonsense anyway, but someone's put on there that they've made a specific point, and I don't know if this is someone from the production, they say something like, this is not based on a folktale. And then they have that exchange about, they say this is I'm wondering if that's like a bit of a that hilarious Scandinavian sense of humor at work again. I wonder if that's a hilarious Icelandic joke, right? It's not based.
What you mean? As in they made a whole film that looks like it's based on.
Seems like it is, yeah, but it's not.
Oh.
Don't fool you. Don't you feel like an idiot now?
Now you were going along with it, weren't you?
Boom. In your face.
I must throw it to you now. You fool. Yeah, well, I was fooled. I mean, I didn't really care either way. So there.
No, that's the thing. No, I don't.
Iceland.
But fuck. Yeah, fuck you, Iceland. We don't care. Yeah. But we enjoyed your film.
Enjoyed it a lot. Yeah, it didn't really matter.
Yeah, I would recommend lamb.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
And as well the meat, which is delicious.
You know what? Oh, this other thing. Well, I meant to look it up before I came for the proportion of the show that we call. What do we call it? I know something. The portion of the show we're calling "We Know Things." Yeah.
No, that's the whole thing.
That's the whole thing. Okay. Yeah. But yeah, so here's another thing I should have looked up, because they're all called Björgensson or Lurgendottir or whatever, and that I ended up looking up World War II and Russia, but I don't know how they do that naming convention in Iceland. But do you? So
it's like the Welsh app, isn't it? It's son of.
Yeah, but son of. So is it son of the dad's or mum's surname? So in other words, if your dad's Greg Davies, will you be Davies' son or will you be Greg's son?
Greg, I think it's the first name, I think. Same as in Welsh.
So then that means the surnames always disappear after one.
Exactly. Because otherwise, if after generations, you'd have really long names.
Yeah. Or you would keep... No. No, because you would keep the surname, don't you? It would always be,
Right. No, but I think it's because it's
David's daughter.
Yeah. So then you give your I don't know how it works with daughters, because in Welsh, for example, it doesn't work for daughters, right? Like you don't get up for daughters; they get given a totally different name, a family name.
Well, there we go.
Yeah, we know what we're talking about.
That's what it is.
The exciting segment where we know what we're talking about, even more than the rest of the show when we know what we're talking about.
You did know what you were talking about. Just about. All right.
Right, shall we bugger off?
Yeah, thank you very much for, I hope you watch this film now. Fuck off.
Yeah, see ya.
Bye.